Contention. Critique. Conjecture. Conclusion.
The Huddle with corporate cars, saving you thousands on luxury European vehicles.
On the Huddle this evening, Cameron Slater is back with us from Whale Oil. Hello, Cam.
Hi, Larry.
Josie Pagani. Hi, Josie. Cameron,
Larry?
Issue number one for you, Cam. ACT picked their new leader and candidate for Epsom. Jamie White, the leader. David Seymour will contest Epsom. What sort of risk do you see here?
Huge risks for ACT. They were given a clear signal from their current coalition partner that Steady As She Goes was a better option. Instead, the young pups, they knew best. They've always liked to think that they know best, and they've decided to have a dreadfully dull and somewhat boring but eminently clever David Seymour as their candidate, and a complete libertarian philosopher as their leader. And I think really all they're faced with as an option is to not discuss policy at all, but to sit there and say and hope that the people in Epsom will buy their pitch. And the only pitch they can realistically run is we're your insurance policy for a continued national-led government. Because if they start talking about policy, they're so long-winded, it's really too long didn't read almost. And,
That's right,
and no one's that interested in what they've got to say.
Cam's right, Larry, because this is the sort of stuff that might sound
Always
fine
right,
in the
Josie.
university common room, but isn't going to really play out on the streets of Epsom, I don't think. And some of his libertarian views, I'm talking about Jamie White here, are pretty on the edge. I mean, for example, he has said, he's saying his views aren't ACT views, but they've just voted for him to be leader. He would like to see all drugs, including P, legalised. And presumably, because he's a libertarian who believes in the individual, not just legalised, but your right to make it and sell it in Epsom.
Well, I think there's some merit on that in cannabis, but I get what you're saying about methamphetamine and drugs like that. But you're right, Josie. It's very hard to get cut through when you hold such extreme views. And some might say, well, those aren't extreme views, and but they are really. They're
but
academic.
The problem is, it's the voters of Epsom too. And the other, I was going through some of his articles last night, and one of the policies he had, or advice he had, was that the British government shouldn't have banned flights over Iceland when the volcano erupted because the individual should make their own choice about risk. Well, that's just silly. People read that and think, what?
It is silly stuff, but then again, the Labour Party wants to ban Facebook, so...
Well, it just looks like Walter White from Breaking Bad has taken over ACT.
But the issue clearly, Cam, and you pointed, the classic Liberals, and they're wanting to win a Conservative electorate. But the other thing is, they won't get there without the Prime Minister's endorsement. And Cam, I put this to you. The Prime Minister has no option but to ask Epsom voters to vote for Mr Seymour. Oh,
no, there's plenty of options out there. When you're the Prime Minister, you can sit there and assess your options. And right now, there's quite a few. The left wing are all cock-a-hoop because they are banking. They are absolutely locking in and banking that Winston is on their side. And I've got news for them. It's all bad. Winston hates the Greens. He hates them more than he hates John Key. And if he has to cut a deal, which means they chew on a little bit of a dead rat's back leg in order to be in government and have New Zealand First there and throw the Greens under the bus, he'll do that in a heartbeat. So,
yeah, but we know that Winston is driven by Utu as much as he is by a desire for power, and no one knows where he'll go. This is the risk for John Key, is that he's given New Zealand First air and oxygen, and it may well be that Epsom voters say, actually, I can't vote for someone who thinks P should be legalised or whatever.
And in order for the opposition to win on the numbers, they need Winston just as much as John Key does. They also need the Greens, and then they also need Labour, and then the assorted other loonies that come along with it. They're just the maths of that. I actually hope that Labour and the Greens and New Zealand First actually do cobble together something and win and have and form a government. I think it would be the most astonishing and fun-packed 3 years that would result that would come out of that.
I would like to see John Key go into government with Jamie White's ACT and talk about workplace safety, which Jamie White doesn't support after Pike River. That's going to be a problem.
Come back in a moment. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater on The Huddle. It's now 16 to 6.
No spin, end of story. It's Larry Williams Drive with the new ANZ, the bank that gives you more.
13.
On NewstalkZB.
13 to 6, Cameron Slater, Josie Pagani, issue number 2, Josie to you. Actor Philip Seymour Hoffman found dead, drug overdose, just 46, had a serious problem for a very long time. What do you think?
Oh, it's really sad. He was such a talented actor. He's certainly someone, me personally, I've always identified with. Not that I'm an overweight, scruffy man, but he could play that everyman character. He could play the good guy going bad, or the bad guy who turns out to be the good guy. You know, he just has such versatility. And you think, for someone that talented, they've got everything. What on earth was he doing? Why was he taking seriously dangerous drugs? It just doesn't make any sense. I feel like knocking his head against the wall.
Well, he's been doing it for a couple of decades. Anyway, Cam, what do you see in this? I mean, obviously he was a train wreck waiting to happen, wasn't he? Yeah.
Well, it's not really no surprise given his history, but I really struggle with the lauding of these types of people as some sort of, modern-day heroes. We had the news this morning. I was sitting there writing a blog post, and I heard TVNZ, breaking news, actor such and such has died. I had to Google him to find out who he was. Is this breaking news? I mean, is it really? Some guy dies sitting in a bathroom with a needle in his arm and it's breaking news? These are actors. They're paid to trick people into empathizing
totally agree,
with them.
Cam.
What's that?
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you again, which is really scary. But
it's 2 out of 2, Josie.
That actors, and I come from a family of actors, the way that we venerate, Lucy Lawless's views on the Arctic Circle or whatever is just
it's rubbish.
I mean, why should they have? But and also, I think this whole mythology of these struggling, tortured geniuses who take drugs. What a tragedy! I agree with you.
Geniuses don't take drugs.
He would have been a better actor if he hadn't taken drugs. Amy Winehouse would have been an even better singer if she hadn't drunk.
Hang on, I've got 2 words for you to prove that wrong. Johnny Depp.
Well, yeah, but he'd be an even better Johnny Depp if he wasn't.
I said before, I mean, he was a very good actor, and they are saying an actor of a generation. I think he was really good. Anyway, Cam.
I agree.
He was, no doubt about that. Anyway, Conservation Minister Nick Smith ordering this review of the safety barriers and signs at Marooia falls after a drowning and a near fatality during the week. So this is south of Murchison. Signs absent, but if people want to jump the fence, you can't do much, Cam.
What are we going to do? Are we going to start erecting fences on rivers and beaches? I mean, stupidity comes up and bites people every now and then. And yes, it's tragic that somebody's drowned. But really, it's a waterfall. It's 158 kilometres from the nearest town. You have to be pretty keen to be going there. Why do we need signs? Amsterdam.
Oh, no, come on, Cam.
There's a comedian, in Amsterdam. He says, there's no signs, there's no fences. They say, is your bike wet? Yes, or were you on the wrong bit?
Well, I'm sure Jamie White and the ACT Party would agree with you that the government shouldn't be putting any safety signs up anyway, because it's the state getting in the way of individual choice. But look, I think Nick Smith's absolutely right here. He wants to have a look at what signs are available, and as he just said to you, Larry, if there's an incentive to go out to the edge of the waterfall because you can't get a good view, why shouldn't DOC build something so that you get a good view and save a few lives?
Well, we know what happens when DOC builds something so you can get a good view. Yeah, well,
I mean, that aside, you can't stop people's poor judgment, Josie, going in for a swim on a waterfall, which is clearly dangerous. Alcohol and swimming, I don't know what was going on there, but it spells danger. Yeah.
That's right. And actually, one interesting thing to come out of this is that there may be a need for education about how you rescue someone. In other words, you don't jump into the water hole that you're going to drown in to save your friend who's already in the water.
Oh, come on, Josie, we all know that.
No, this is
that's the thing. We all know that. We're all taught that when I can remember at school. Check before you dive in. Make sure the water's clear. Look, sometimes bad things happen to stupid people.
But it doesn't hurt to say, I reckon that would actually be a really good thing. Teach people that, if you want to save someone, chuck something out to a rope or anything they can help themselves.
More state
what's
funding.
wrong with that, Cam? You don't want to save
No, common sense. It used to be there was a hole in the ground, you walked around it, you went, oh, look at that. And it would say, well, why didn't you step in that? Well, it looked like it was going to hurt.
Thank you, Cam. That is Cameron Slater and Josie Pagani on the Huddle. NewstalkZB Sport to follow. It's now 9 to 6.